It had been my work, or at least I am confident that it had been the stress of work, that began my transformation. Deadlines and job security concerns had pushed most of my colleagues to appear permanently stressed. Not that I felt any different. The whole office had been under considerable stress for months. Competing companies had merged, making our profits waste away. Half the staff had already left, most from redundancy, though some were from the increasingly hard workload. Each member of staff that left put a little more weight on the remaining shoulders. We were down to just 26 employees and had begun looking at ways to save both the company and our sanity, each of us exploring different avenues of possibility, spending our own money to save it. Being single and somewhat the senior of my co-workers, I had considerable savings, and it had occurred to me that the company needed more personnel to handle the work, but didn't have the funds to pay them. This made my course of action clear. I would be more people. Much of the work could be done through virtual environments, so I began with a single server, not my own, just hired space on a satellite in orbit. There I built a virtual office, an endless single floor of cubicles, spreading to the edges of the processing potential from an elevator at the center. The environment was simple, so I had plenty of server power left, enough to run 62 copies of my own mind. So I began to change. Each copy within the server would take some of the work, sharing their memories and experiences with me. It worked perfectly. The business was soon feeling the load lighten. My co-workers were seeming much more relaxed, and the company was starting to post a profit again. Small, but it was something. Despite the improvements, I had noticed a change in myself, as well as a change in the way others treated me. Like a chasm had opened up between us, slowly growing wider. Even my own physical body was beginning to feel cramped, my mind swollen to fill its bone housing. This had also necessitated an expansion of my server space. All of my copies had grown with me, barely able to run at real-time speeds. So I expanded, tripling the server space I had, while doubling the number of minds. The expanded space was not all office. I added a landscape of meadows and mountains, somewhere to enjoy myself, even opening it to public access. There I could work on my social skills, close the chasm, or at least shrink it somewhat. I was living 125 lives at once, many working to support the company, while others played games, had debates, and built friendships. It all helped. My colleagues began to socialize with me more, opening up to me again. It was a heady feeling. The solution to the company's woes had also been the solution to my social difficulties. It was clear what I should do next. The growth of the company had increased my own wealth, enough for a server satellite of my own, 10 times the space I was renting. So I emptied my savings into it and moved my virtual realms and many minds over, allowing me to grow in size as well as quantity. Soon, I outnumbered over 1,000 lives, my physical body no longer able to contain me. I had it replaced with an expensive new one, much like my old in appearance, though I took a few decades off the age and added a lot of additional brain, along with numerous other tweaks and additions. My many lives had furnished me with thousands of friends in hundreds of social circles, along with dozens of other jobs in other industries and businesses, some for the money, some for the social interactions, and some for education. But I soon found need for more physical forms. Within a year, I had 19 physical bodies, scattered across a dozen colonies, all still on or around Venus, allowing me to enjoy the breadth of culture and community of this beautiful and mysterious world. Soon enough, I was forced to face a loss. A close friend of mine, one I had known for more than a decade, died. It was a natural death, but his own cultural beliefs meant that no backup of his mind existed. The expiration of his organic form took with it a poetic and beautiful consciousness. No expansion of my satellite, No copying of my mind could recover what nature had taken away. But I was not convinced of that. Not then. He had been my friend for a long time. We worked together for many years, so I began to build, collecting my memories of him. We were alike in many ways, sharing the same opinions and ideals in a great variety of subjects. I worked with a copy of my own mind, blanking the memories and rebuilding the ones I had of him, changing them from my perspective to his. I created memories from extrapolation, building on stories he had shared with me, tales of his childhood and family. The work consumed me for months. Dozens of my minds worked night and day, shaping the mind to resemble my friend, even purchasing an identical body for it to inhabit. Finally, the work was done. I had exhausted every avenue, combed my thoughts for every crumb of relevant data. My final preparations were ready. I had purchased his house when he died, keeping it in good order, and the replacement body had been delivered there. I waited for a Wednesday, the same day he had died, though it had been 7 months since that day. I felt it would be easier for him if the day was still Wednesday. When it finally arrived, I was ready, letting myself into the home and installing him. It went smoothly, soon setting up and configuring its final components. At the very same hour of his death, he was ready to wake. I decided to let him wake naturally rather than rouse him myself, even moving into the lounge, as I felt strange hovering over his bed as he slept. It was another 3 hours of waiting before sounds of movement reached the lounge, causing me to smile. He soon emerged from his bedroom with a relaxed look about him, though my presence caused some surprise. We talked, not about the events of the past 7 months. Instead, I wanted to see if I had been successful. The answers and opinions he shared with me were like those of my friend, but the richness of debate was gone. I felt like I was talking to myself, not my friend, just me with another face. My smile soon faded, sadness replacing every other thought. I excused myself and left. The confusion, melancholy, and anger spread throughout my myriad lives. The failure was hard to take, so I began again, building the mind from the ground up. It was clear that basing him on me was a mistake, so I began with the memories, using them as a template to build the mind. The legions of me, all focused on this one goal. As time drifted by, I built dozens of tests, running them in virtual renditions of his home, engaging in hundreds of conversations. Yet none felt as he had done. No debate or game would feel as it once had been. Eventually, I was done. Every avenue had been walked, every account emptied. He was gone, and I was unable to avoid this fact anymore. My first thoughts after this final loss were of my other friends, but time had moved on for them as well. Many had moved away, started families, or changed as people, and to my great regret, some had even died while I was consumed with resurrection. But of the strangest was my first attempt. He had continued to live his new life, even finding love and fathering 2 children, now 9 and 5 years old. I watched from afar, and though I did not see my friend in that familiar face, I could see a son, one who I should have been there for, one who I abandoned after a single conversation.